Good evening and good to have you with us in this edition of The Last Word. We've got two very interesting topics lined up for you. Later on in the show, we're going to turn our attention towards Karnataka, where the big trust vote, the confidence motion is likely to be moved in the assembly tomorrow. But before we go to that, the big victory for India at the international platform, at the International Court of Justice, where the ICJ ruled in favor of India, ruled in favor of Kulbhushan Jadhav, to the extent that Pakistan cannot execute our man right now. To the extent that Pakistan will have to give us consular access, that Pakistan cannot stop India from speaking to our own man, even if he is in their custody. So India can now speak to Kulbhushan Jadhav. We can provide him all the legal assistance that is required. We have full consular access, which is what the Pakistan had blocked for the last few years. The other big win is that the Pakistan has been told by the International Court of Justice to review the conviction, to review the sentence, the death sentence that has been given by Pakistan's military court to Kulbhushan Jadhav. But that doesn't mean, viewers, that Kulbhushan Jadhav is going to be a free man anytime soon. It doesn't mean that he is already going to be on his way back home. That wait will be longer. That battle is still to be fought. So while India has had a big win tonight at the international forum, where Pakistan has been reminded about human rights, about international norms, about the Vienna Convention that must be followed by countries, we still have to ensure that we bring back our man safely to our country. So what really happens next is the big question, and that's why we have two legal experts who are joining us this evening. Karuna Nandi, lawyer with the Supreme Court, and Kailash Vasudev, senior advocate also with the Supreme Court. Mr. Vasudev, the next battle will be as important because, well, it's Pakistan we're talking about. We don't expect them to just give up and say, okay, let's just let him go now. We will review our verdict and remove the death sentence and you can take him back. So what happens next, if you can help our viewers understand?
Good evening. You see, the position is this. The International Court, by a judgment 15-1, has said that this judgment of the Pakistan Military Court needs to be reviewed effectively. The exact words are effective review and reconsideration. Now, if that has happened, that is to say that the people in the government of Pakistan will have to reconsider the decision taken. That in itself is a very important achievement in the circumstances in which this battle has been fought. When the defense started for Mr. Jadhav, there was absolutely total blockage of any information being available to us. One must salute and respect our team, led by Mr. Salve, and the able assistance of the Government of India in succeeding in seeking a review, and to that extent calling upon the Government of Pakistan to refrain from taking any further action. The review has to be effective, the whole matter has to be reheard, and full consular access has to be given to Mr. Jadhav. He has been charged on charges of espionage and so on and so forth. Even now that will have to be watered down because once you get consular access, he will be able to present a complete defense. If he is to present the complete defense, it is thanks to the order passed today by the International Court of Justice in a majority of 15-1 with every country supporting us, which is very remarkable because normally decisions of the International Court of Justice come fractured. There's not a fractured decision, it's a unanimous decision, I say, because Pakistan was expected to, in any case, recuse itself or decide against us. That is not an extraordinary situation. But what is remarkable is that we have succeeded in keeping a death sentence at bay for the moment and to give the man a hearing before any further action takes place, which is astounding.
Absolutely. Karuna Nandi, your views on this, there is no denying the fact that the case that we presented to say Pakistan is not even following basic norms, observing basic human rights and the Vienna Convention, that case has been won. But the job next, obviously, will be to prove the case in Pakistan. Now, whether it's military or civil court, we don't know yet.
You know, Tanvi, I think we're right to herald this victory as a real victory, and it's a wonderful win for our country. But at the same time, what does it mean in concrete terms for Mr. Jadhav? Now, in terms of human rights, the International Court of Justice is not a court really for individuals. It's not a court of human rights. It's a court that decides disputes between states. Somewhat unusually in this instance, the rights of an individual have, and the human rights of an individual have been implicated in these rights between states because of the issue of consular access. And consular agreement, the Vienna Consular Agreement is something that is actually unusual in international law, that it's one of the agreements that is very much upheld usually by both parties, because by all parties, because everyone has an interest, even in enemy states, even in unfriendly states rather, to make sure that our diplomatic and consular officials are safe, for instance. Here now, let us see what we have got. What we have got is an order for effective review and reconsideration. Now, this is the same order that was given, for example, in the Vienna case, right? And in the Legrand case. Now, the problem in this US case that I'm speaking of is that the state of Texas said that, look, this binds the United States of America, but this doesn't bind us. So we are going to continue to put these Mexicans that we have on death row, these Mexican nationals, we are going to sort of we're going to effectively ignore the ICJ's order. Now, a few minutes ago, the Pakistan reportedly has come out with a statement saying that they will follow the procedure as per law. Now, what does that mean? What if they grant him consular access and then say that before a military court you can't have a lawyer, for example, you know? And then before that military court, if he's not granted a lawyer, and then he is sentenced to death again. Now, would this be, and they say that they are deciding the issue de novo, they're deciding the issue again. Now, this would unfortunately be the, we'd be sort of pretty much in the same position then. There's another thing that we must keep in mind, that there is a bilateral treaty between Pakistan and India, which says that national security considerations will not be exempt. I beg your pardon. National security, when there is a consideration of national security, then such access, for example, will not be given.
Right.
Now, the ICJ said that essentially you can't modify the Vienna Convention in this regard, right? But it'll be interesting to see whether they invoke that. Now, there are many a slip between the cup and the lip. And what the ICJ does in these situations is that it leaves the nitty-gritty of such decisions to the country itself.
To
and
Pakistan.
as we saw with the United States, and the United States, let's face it, is a rogue in international law in many ways. You know, it unsigned the Rome Statute. It is the only country, it was the only country for years and years that hadn't signed the Convention on the Rights of the Child. It hasn't signed the Convention on the Rights of the Child. And I suspect that it will depend very much on how Pakistan wishes to see itself in the world, because what this judgment has done in a very important way is that it has brought a certain, I think, normative value to our India's position with regard to Kulbhushan Jadhav. Now, and we saw, for example, that they released our Air Force personnel, you know, because they wanted to be seen as a particular kind of country in the world. So let us see politically the way it plays out.
Let me also put it in, in another way and take it a step forward. Now, Mr. Kailash Vastav, legally speaking, is this as much as we could have done? What now depends is how we fight this diplomatically and how Pakistan sees it, bases their own political conditions and how they want the world to perceive them. Because as far as the International Court of Justice is concerned, they have told Pakistan that you decide how you want to review this decision. And as far as India's request is concerned, that don't let it be a trial in military court, at least let it be in a civil court. That's also not been accepted. So is our only option now to mount a diplomatic, campaign to convince Pakistan to let him go?
Well, you have a judgment of the International Court of Justice. You have the law of Pakistan, which is called the municipal law, which will be applied in this case. If you read the judgment of the International Court, you will find there's a reference to the fact, and there was an argument propounded that insofar as the decisions of the field court-martials are concerned, they're amenable to jurisdictions of the High Court, which can decide to, which can look into the question of the sentence and the trial which was carried out. There's also a reference to the fact that a large number of cases, the High Court has set aside the judgment of the field courts. Now, this could have happened in our case, in Jadhav's case presently, but this would all happen without consular access. So the man would be fighting a lone battle against a decision taken by a military court, where really the compliance with the principles of natural justice and freedom does not arise. The saving grace today is that at least you have an opportunity of defending the man in case any adverse orders are once again passed by the military court with the help of consular access and with legal help in going to the High Court. This is a very big achievement as far as we are concerned, because you have got a chance to fight for the protection of Mr. Jadhav's rights in appeal before the High Court. And that too with the full might of the Government of India and the people of India who support any action which the government would take in having his release. When I come to the second aspect of it, the political aspects. Normally in cases of espionage or allegations of espionage, it becomes very difficult to muster national support and international support. Here what has happened is that you've got an opportunity to establish that there was no espionage and no action taken by Mr. Jadhav as alleged by the military court. Please understand that this whole thing took place at a point of time when relations between India and Pakistan were at the lowest ebb. We are now trying to revive them. You have opened up the skies and the flight paths today. The good flight lieutenant was returned to us. We have also done a lot of similar actions in returning a lot of people from Pakistan back to their own country. So it is now coming down to a situation of mutual improvement of relationships. Forget the battle of Kashmir, which will continue forever till we find a positive solution. But on the other side, as far as the other elements are concerned, there is a thaw in relationships.
Yes.
I only hope that this thaw continues and leads to the release of Mr. Jadhav. Because taking one human life is not going to sort a problem which has been continuing for a long, long time.
Absolutely.
We've got to accept the fact that at some point of time, the justice system has to come in and the polity of a nation has got to take over.
Absolutely. Very well said. Thank you, both of you, for joining us and, putting it in perspective. The idea of having this conversation was to actually just simplify it for our viewers outside of the rhetorics that you will see, to just tell you what has happened and what this really means as far as India's efforts are concerned to get Kulbhushan Jadhav back. So thanks to both of our guests for joining us right now. And here is where things stand. Yes, it's a big win for India at the International Court of Justice, because the ICJ agrees Pakistan violated Vienna Convention, because the ICJ agrees that this case actually comes under their jurisdiction, because the ICJ agrees that India should have the right and must be able to get through to its man, even if he has been accused of espionage, even if he has been accused of being a spy, and that India should be able to speak to him, communicate with him, provide him all the legal support to try and prove he has been falsely implicated. But the battle continues, because while his execution may have been stayed for now, Pakistan still has the right to decide what happens to him. Pakistan is the country that will still review the conviction, and we have to build our case and present our case in Pakistan. We don't know if they will go back to the military court or put this case now in a civil court. So all of that still remains. One thing that both countries have agreed upon, and one of our viewers was asking this question, so I'm clarifying on that. Both India and Pakistan now admit that he is an Indian national. There is no debate about that. India continues to hold on to its stand that that's it. He is an Indian national out on business who was then picked up by Pakistan and falsely implicated of being a spy. That battle to bring him back still continues. But today, what has clearly happened is a decisive win at the International Court of Justice. Let's move on to debate.